Hey y'all, I'm Angela. I sat down today to edit my day 11 check-in footage for NaNoWriMo and I just wasn't feeling it. But I have found the daily videos during this Camp Nano process to be really valuable. So today I wanted to talk about sort of another part of my reading and writing experience that's happening right now that is not strictly Nano related but is concurrent to it. And that is rereading. I have been rereading tons of books lately, like so many. I wanted to speak to it a little bit because it's something that I've really come to think about differently in the last few weeks. And particularly, I think at this time when there's obviously a lot of uncertainty and frustration and just lots of different things happening. I've always reread, like I've always had a fairly active rereading life, in part because I have essentially no memory, so rereading works great for me. Basically, if I wait 3 or 4 years, it's almost always just a new experience. And then there's just stories that I really love as well. And so it's always been an important thing for me, but it's also been something that I have tried to do less of. I think it's definitely something that is often like portrayed as negative. Definitely when I was little, I have very vivid memories of my mom took Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone and put it up where I couldn't reach it so that I would read something else. Because otherwise I was going to read it on repeat. As like a child that read a lot of books, that was totally fine and was good for me in many ways. As a teacher, I do feel like it's important to say that rereading can be really important for young readers, particularly reluctant readers, and that it's often a thing that should be encouraged, but that's different. In particular, in this moment, it's been really helpful. In part, right, I am a history teacher, and so a lot of the reading that I'm doing for work and a lot of the nonfiction reading that I'm doing is really challenging, and it's important, and it's stuff that I both feel called to do and that I kind of love doing this work, obviously, but it's nice to have something that feels safe because I know what's going to happen. And the other thing I'll say is that from a writing perspective, I've really been enjoying rereading as much as I have been, because I don't visualize at all, and so rereading stuff has been helpful in starting to sort of notice, in particular, description that writers put in, which is a thing that as I read I completely discard and skip over, and so then I have a hard time doing in my writing because I've never paid attention to it. So from a craft perspective as well, it's been helpful. There definitely is a stigma around rereading, and I feel like that stigma has a lot to do with actually the prestige tied to reading and the idea that reading is this thing that is sort of highbrow or really valuable, and like often that is tied to particular kinds of reading. Like I read a lot of speculative fiction and that isn't always considered or like counted, but I do think, right, like there's not the same stigma around rewatching stuff that there is around rereading stuff, and I think that that's because we don't think of watching TV is this fancy thing, and the way that we think about reading is this fancy thing. The one other thing that I wanted to talk about really quickly is the book that I've been rereading the most, which I've talked about on this channel before, and if you've ever met me in real life, I've definitely told you about, which is The Goblin Emperor by Catherine Addison. It's such a sweet book. I have read it now 6 times in the last 3 years, and 3 times in the last 6 months. Not like actual spoilers, but sort of thematic spoilers. I started reading this book in graduate school, and I think the thing that speaks to me the most about it is, first off, it's like a lot of my interests. It's very much like a court drama, which is totally my thing, and it's lots of sort of like politics and ritual and logistics, which I thoroughly love. But it's also just such a fundamentally hopeful book. So The Goblin Emperor is about Maya, who is the half-goblin son of the Emperor of the Elfland, and when the Emperor and his 3 oldest sons are killed in an airship crash, Maya takes the throne, and then he's like dealing with things going from there. It's such a wonderful, beautiful, hopeful story that is just very much about entering adulthood in a lot of ways. And again, some of the reason that I love this book is absolutely that I just read it at the exact right time, right? I was in grad school, I was about to start my career, and it's very much a book about a young person being thrown into a professional life that they don't feel at all equipped for, that they think is really important, and that they also don't know that they can do what they've been asked to do. It's about him like figuring that out and working hard and being kind, and that making things better. And it's just so soothing, quite frankly. Like, it's so soothing. I've heard it described as hope punk. I've heard it described as a Hufflepuff power fantasy. It's a really sweet, gentle, kind book, and I love it so much, as evidenced by the fact that I've read it 3 times this year already. I just wanted to take some time both to speak about this book because I love it so much, and to speak to the process of rereading and sort of the role I feel like it's playing, for me at least, in this particular moment. If you have books that you love to reread, share them with me in the comments. If you liked this video, go ahead and give it a little thumbs up. If you are curious about my NaNo journey, feel free to subscribe. I would love to see you stick around. If you are currently doing the writing thing, good luck with that. If you are doing the reading thing, I hope that the books that you find speak to you. And that is about it. Bye, lovelies.